You don't owe me a story. Nora Bell looked up from the empty contents of her black clutch. For the last 5 minutes, she had been searching it with the stubborn concentration of someone convinced a missing wallet might appear if she looked hard enough. The hotel bar was nearly empty. Rain tapped at the tall windows. A pianist in the corner had stopped playing 20 minutes ago, but the last notes still seemed to hang in the warm air. Nora's phone was dead. Her wallet was gone. Her apartment building had been evacuated after a pipe burst on the 6th floor. And she had just told the bartender that she would rather sleep on a subway platform than call anyone she knew. Now a stranger in a dark suit was sitting one stool away, looking at her as if none of those things made her pathetic. "I don't know you," she said. That is generally how strangers begin. She narrowed her eyes. He was handsome in a way that would have annoyed her on a better night. Dark hair. Calm face. White shirt open at the collar. He looked like he had stepped out of a private dinner where people spoke quietly about money and art and which schools their children might attend. The bartender set a glass of water in front of Nora. "I didn't order that," she said. "No," the man beside her said. "You ordered the martini before it." She looked at the water, then at him. "I'm fine." "Of course you are." "I am." He gave a small nod, as if he had no intention of arguing. "Then we are both fine." That should have irritated her. Instead, she almost laughed. The bartender, Martin, glanced toward the stranger. "Her phone died," he said quietly. "She thinks she lost her wallet at the place on Mercer. She won't let me call the police or a friend." "I can hear you," Nora said. "I know," Martin said. The stranger looked at her, not the bartender. "Where were you trying to go?" "Home." "Can you get in?" "No." "Why not?" "My building is closed." She rubbed her temple. There was flooding. "Do you have a friend nearby?" "In Brooklyn." "Which part?" "Near Prospect Park." He looked toward the rain-streaked windows. The nearest subway entrance was across the avenue, shining under a red traffic light. Nora understood what he was thinking and stiffened. "I'm not taking a cab from some man I just met." "Good," he said. "You should not take a cab from some man you just met." She blinked. He reached into his jacket pocket and placed a phone charger on the bar. "You can charge your phone," he said. "Then you can decide what you want to do." "And if I don't want to do that?" "Then you can sit here, drink the water you didn't order, and glare at me until closing." Nora stared at him. "Why are you helping me?" He looked down at the charger for a moment. "Because it's 2 in the morning. You have no phone, no wallet, no apartment, and you look like you have already had enough opinions from men tonight." Her throat tightened before she could stop it. She looked away. That was the problem with strangers. Sometimes they saw things people close to you had learned to ignore. "I don't want anyone to know I look like this tonight," she said. The words came out quieter than she meant them to. For a moment, he said nothing. Then he turned to Martin. "Tea," he said. "Not coffee." Martin nodded and walked away. Nora looked at the stranger again. "You are very comfortable giving instructions. Only when someone is in danger of making a bad decision." "I'm not in danger." "You were considering the subway to Brooklyn in heels, during a storm, after 2 martinis. 3. He smiled. "That does make the danger more immediate." The tea arrived. Nora wrapped both hands around the cup, more for something to hold than because she wanted it. The stranger stayed where he was. He did not reach for her bag. He did not touch her arm. He did not ask who had made her cry in the bathroom 30 minutes earlier. He only said, "You have 3 choices." "I hate choices." "Then you'll hate this." She gave him a tired look. "First," he said, "the hotel can put you in a room upstairs. You lock the door. You sleep. You deal with your life tomorrow. I can't afford this hotel. You can pay later. I don't take money from strangers. Fine. You can pay the hotel later. She almost smiled again. Second, he continued, we call a car to your friend's place. You text her first. I wait until you get in the car. Then I leave. And third? You sit here until your phone turns on and make a plan you don't regret in the morning. Nora looked at him for a long moment. And what do you get out of this? Very little. Possibly an entertaining story for my future autobiography. You are impossible. I've had years to practice. Her phone screen lit for half a second, then went dark again. Nora sighed. The last 12 hours came back to her in pieces. At 6 that evening, she had been standing in her office near Lafayette Street, staring at an email from Elias Voss. Elias had been her business partner for 7 years. They had started Bell and Voss in a coffee shop with 2 laptops, 1 client, and a shared belief that museums did not have to feel like quiet places where rich people wore uncomfortable shoes. Nora built the schedules, the teams, the budgets, the artist relationships. Elias worked the rooms. He brought in donors, charmed boards, made people feel important. For a long time, it worked. Then he began leaving earlier. Then he began forgetting things. Then he began telling her she was too intense whenever she asked why she was fixing the same problems alone. His email had arrived at 6. It was polished. Grateful. Careful. After much reflection, I have decided to step away from Bell and Voss and pursue new opportunities. I remain proud of what Nora and I built together. I know she will do everything she can to guide the company through this transition. Everything she can. As if he were blessing her with the mess he had created. Saturday night was midnight at the museum, the biggest event of the year. A late-night charity preview at the Mercer Museum. The board would decide whether to renew Bell and Voss for another year based partly on how the event went. Elias had left 2 days before the event. Nora had spent the evening answering calls, calming staff, assuring donors, and pretending that nothing was wrong. Then she had gone to dinner with a client because canceling would have created questions. Then she had gone to a second bar because she was too angry to go home. Then she had received the email about the burst pipe in her building. Then she had lost her wallet. By midnight, she had been too tired to keep pretending she was the person who always knew what to do. Now she was sitting in an old Manhattan hotel bar with a stranger who had not asked her a single question she did not want to answer. Her phone vibrated weakly on the bar. She looked down. 3 missed calls from Maya, her operations director. 1 message from her friend Claire. 1 message from Elias. Nora closed her eyes. The stranger noticed, but he did not ask. That made it worse somehow. Or better. She was not sure. What is your name? She asked. Julian. Just Julian. Julian Vale. Nora. He nodded once. Nora. The way he said her name made it sound familiar already. She hated that she noticed. The hotel had 1 room left, Martin informed them 10 minutes later. A small suite on the 8th floor. Nora stood beside the elevator with the keycard in her hand and the charger tucked into her coat pocket. Julian had paid before she could stop him. I'll send you the money, she said. You can send it to the hotel. You know what I mean. Yes. He smiled. And I know you hate owing people things. Nora looked at him. You figured that out quickly. You told me 3 times. I did not. You did. She wanted to argue, but she was too tired. The elevator doors opened. Julian stepped back. I'll bring you your phone in 10 minutes, he said. It needs a little longer. Nora hesitated. Are you leaving? I said I would. She looked at him again. Really looked. There was no pressure in his face. No expectation. No little smile that suggested he thought the night was heading somewhere else. For some reason, that made her chest ache. "Thank you," she said. Julian's expression softened. "Sleep first," he said. "You can decide whether you hate me in the morning." The next morning, Nora woke to gray light and the sound of rain slowing against the windows. For a few seconds, she forgot where she was. Then she saw the water bottle, the aspirin, and her phone charging on the bedside table. Beside it was a folded note. "You don't owe me a story in the morning. Just a name, if you still want to give me one." Julian. Nora read it twice. Then she got up. Julian was in the small sitting room outside the bedroom, drinking coffee near the window. He had changed into a fresh white shirt and dark trousers. His jacket rested over the back of a chair. He looked up when she stepped out. "Morning. You stayed. I had a feeling you might wake up wanting coffee." "That sounds annoyingly confident." "I'm trying to make it a personality." She found a mug waiting on the table. "Did you order breakfast?" "There's toast." "I'm not hungry." "There is also a muffin." "I don't want a muffin. It appears to be made of oats and regret. I wouldn't recommend it." Nora looked at him. Then she laughed. It was the first real laugh she had managed since Elias's email. Julian looked pleased, but only for a second. She sat across from him and wrapped both hands around the coffee mug. "Thank you," she said. "You're welcome. I mean it." "I know." She looked down. "I was awful last night." "You were tired." "I was drunk." "That too." "I was crying in a hotel bathroom." "Still not a crime." Nora pressed her lips together. "You don't have to pretend it wasn't embarrassing." Julian leaned back in his chair. "I'm not pretending. I just don't think being overwhelmed is embarrassing." She looked at him. He held her gaze without trying to fill the silence. Finally, Nora said, "I run an event company." "I guessed something like that." "Why? You checked your phone 6 times before you looked at your own reflection once." She gave him a flat look. "That is not a normal thing to notice." "I never said I was normal." She looked away to hide another smile. "I run Bell and Voss," she said. "Or I did. My partner left yesterday." "Elias." Her eyes flicked back to him. "You saw his name. Your phone kept lighting up." "I did not read the messages." Still. Nora nodded slowly. "Saturday is the biggest event we've ever done," she said. "It's at the Mercer Museum. There are donors, artists, board members. If it goes badly, we lose the contract. And Elias left you with it." "He left me with the part he thought would break me." Julian was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Will it?" Nora looked out at the rain. "No," she said. Then she corrected herself. "I don't know." That is a better answer. It's not a strong answer. It is an honest one. Nora looked back at him. She had spent years around people who said things like "you've got this and it'll be fine and you're so capable." Those words always sounded like compliments. Usually they meant, "Please keep doing everything so I don't have to." Julian did not tell her she could handle it. He did not tell her she was strong. He just sat there and let the truth be complicated. Before she left, Nora placed a business card on the table. "Your room," she said. "The hotel. I'll pay you back." Julian picked up the card. "Nora Bell. Founder." "Yes. Impressive." "It's just a card." "It is still impressive." She moved toward the door, then paused. "Last night," she said quietly, "thank you for not making me feel like a problem." Julian looked at her. "You weren't a problem." She swallowed. You were tired, he added. Nora nodded once and left before he could see how much that sentence mattered. By Friday night, she had not slept much. Her office looked like a place where a storm had learned to use a printer. Seating charts covered the conference table. Vendor contracts were stacked on the floor. 3 different versions of the event timeline glowed on her laptop screen. Cold takeout coffee sat beside a half-open box of noodles. Maya had gone home an hour earlier after Nora promised she would leave soon. She had lied. At 11:15, Nora opened her phone and stared at Julian's name. She had saved it after leaving the hotel. She typed a message, deleted it, typed another, deleted that too. Finally, she sent, "I know this is unreasonable, but are you free Saturday night? I could use someone good in a room full of difficult people." His reply came less than a minute later. "That depends. Are the difficult people paying for dinner?" Nora smiled despite herself. Then another message appeared. "Send me the address." Julian arrived at midnight carrying 2 paper bags of food. He stopped in the doorway and looked around the office. "You weren't joking." "About what?" "The smell." Nora frowned. "What smell?" "One person trying to do 8 jobs." He put the food on the conference table. "It has a very distinct scent. Printer toner, burned coffee, and bad decisions. I'm having a crisis." "I brought noodles." "That does not fix a crisis." "No, but it gives it carbohydrates." Nora tried not to smile. She failed. Julian took off his coat and looked at the stacks of papers. "Tell me what you need." The question caught her off guard. Not what happened. Not why didn't you call someone else. Not are you okay. What do you need? Nora looked at the room. Then at him. "I need someone who understands how people talk when they're trying to take something from you." Julian's expression changed. "Okay. I need someone to notice when a donor is being difficult before they become a problem." "Okay. I need someone who can make people feel like they're getting what they want without actually giving them control of the room." Julian considered that. "I can probably do that. And I need someone who won't make decisions for me." That one came out quieter. Julian looked at her for a moment. "I won't." Nora nodded. They worked until almost 3. Julian read the guest list, the seating chart, the schedule, and Elias's email. He asked questions that made her stop and think. Which donors cared about the museum, and which ones cared about being photographed at the museum? Which board member hated surprises? Which artist needed reassurance? Which sponsor would panic if their name was not mentioned in the opening remarks? He did not pretend to understand Nora's work better than she did. He only helped her sort through the noise. At one point, he took 3 piles of paper and moved them apart. "What are you doing?" Nora asked. "Creating a system." "I already have a system." "You have 17 systems fighting each other." He pointed to the first pile. "Things you can fix tonight." The second. "Things you can fix tomorrow." The third. "Things you are not allowed to think about until Sunday." Nora looked at the last pile. "What if I want to think about them?" "You may schedule a private appointment with your anxiety on Sunday afternoon." "You are very bossy." "I'm very helpful." People confuse the two. She watched him for a moment. Then she sat down across from him and opened a container of noodles. The next evening, the museum was closed when they arrived. Staff moved through the halls with carts, flowers, lighting equipment, and trays of glassware. The main gallery had been transformed for the event. White fabric draped from the ceiling. Small pools of light fell across the sculptures. A stage stood at the far end of the room. Nora walked through it with a clipboard in one hand. Julian walked beside her. He noticed things quickly. "The donor tables are too close to the service door," he said. "They requested privacy." They want to feel important. There is a difference. Nora looked at the floor plan. He was right. At the media wall, he paused. The photographer will get the catering hallway in the background. So someone will be carrying boxes behind every important person in the room. It will look like chaos. Nora looked again. He was right about that too. You have done this before, she said. No. Then how do you know? I have spent a lot of time in rooms where people are pretending not to care about where they are standing. She smiled. At the stage, Nora picked up the printed program. Elias's name was still listed beneath the midnight remarks. Her stomach tightened. Julian watched her face. He's not speaking, she said. He is on paper. He left the company. That does not mean he wants to leave the spotlight. Nora folded the program once. Denise Harrow, the museum director, was walking across the gallery with two members of the board. Nora took a breath and went to meet them. Julian stayed back. That was one of the things she was beginning to understand about him. He did not need to enter every room with her. He only needed to make sure she knew she could. Denise, Nora said. Can we talk about the midnight remarks? Denise looked at the program. I assume this is about Elias. He is no longer involved in Bell and Voss. I know. Then he should not be speaking for the company. Denise's expression remained polite. This is a delicate night, Nora. Some board members know Elias well. So do I. Denise looked at her carefully. Nora steadied herself. Tonight's event was built by my team, she said. The artists were selected by my team. The donors were coordinated by my team. I need the person speaking to represent the people who are actually staying to do the work. One of the board members looked impressed. Denise did not answer right away. Let's see how the evening goes, she said. If the event is strong, we can make adjustments. It was not enough. But it was not no. After Denise walked away, Nora looked down at the lanyard around her neck. It had twisted and caught against the collar of her black jumpsuit. Hold still, Julian said. She looked up. Why? Your badge is trying to escape. Before she could answer, he stepped closer. May I? Nora nodded. He adjusted the lanyard with careful fingers, smoothing the strap flat against the fabric near her collarbone. He did not touch her skin. Still, she felt the closeness of him. You don't need to look like you're asking permission to be here, he said quietly. Nora looked at him. You need to look like this place was waiting for you. For a second, she forgot what she had been about to say. Then a cart rolled past behind them, and the moment broke. Nora looked down at her clipboard. You say things like that to everyone? Only people wearing crooked badges. By 10 o'clock, the museum was full. Champagne moved through the galleries. A quartet played near the sculpture garden. Donors stood beneath the lights in dark suits and silk dresses. Artists spoke in excited clusters near their work. Nora moved through the room with a steady smile. She introduced sponsors. Checked on the staff. Solved a problem with the caterer. Smoothed over a seating issue before it became a complaint. Julian stayed nearby. Not hovering. Just present. When one donor began complaining that his table was too far from the main gallery, Julian listened for 30 seconds, then told him the museum director had placed him near the most important new artists of the night. The donor looked pleased before Julian had even finished the sentence. When a journalist wandered too close to the service entrance, Julian redirected her toward a young painter whose work had already attracted attention. When a sponsor's wife asked Nora why Elias was not standing beside her, Julian appeared with a fresh glass of champagne and asked the woman about a foundation she supported in Queens. The conversation shifted. Nora watched him do it. He never made a scene. He never acted like he was saving her. He simply kept the room from closing in. Then Elias arrived. He wore a dark blue tuxedo and a smile Nora knew too well. The smile he used when he wanted people to think he had already won. "Nora," he said, opening his arms. She did not step into them. "Elias. You look beautiful." "Thank you." He glanced around the gallery. "You've done well." The words sounded like praise. They were not. Before Nora could answer, two major donors approached. Elias turned toward them with perfect timing. "I was just telling Nora how impressive this all looks," he said. "She has always been brilliant at making things beautiful. Sometimes she just takes on too much alone." The donors smiled politely. Nora felt the old instinct rise. Smile. Do not react. Do not give him a reason to call you difficult. Her fingers tightened around her champagne glass. Then Julian stepped beside her. "That must be a relief," he said easily to Elias. "Seeing how well she does when she doesn't have to carry anyone else." The donors went quiet. Elias's smile froze for half a second. Julian turned toward the donors. "Have you seen the scholarship pieces in the East Gallery?" he asked. Nora fought to include them. "They are probably the strongest part of the event." One of the donors looked at Nora. "You chose those artists?" Nora saw the opening. "Yes," she said. The museum had already been working with them, but the scholarship program needed more visibility. "We wanted the fundraising to feel connected to the people it is supposed to support." The donors began asking questions. Nora answered them. For the next 5 minutes, Elias stood beside her with nothing useful to add. When the donors finally moved away, Nora turned to Julian. "What did you just do?" He looked toward Elias, who had wandered off toward another group. "I changed the subject." "That was not all you did." "No," Julian said. "I reminded the room who was actually doing the work." Nora looked at him. Her hand moved before she thought about it. Her fingers touched the sleeve of his jacket. Just above his wrist. Julian glanced down at her hand, then back at her face. He did not take her hand. He did not tease her. That made her want to leave it there. A staff member hurried toward Nora. "Denise needs you upstairs," she said. "In the conservatory." Nora looked at Julian. "Go," he said. "You're not coming." "Do you want me to?" She considered it. Then shook her head. "No." "Then I'll be here." The conservatory was quiet. Glass walls surrounded the room. Rain dotted the ceiling above the plants. Beyond the windows, Manhattan looked blue and distant. Nora took off her heels and stood barefoot on the cool stone floor. Julian came in a few minutes later with a glass of water. "You look like someone who escaped a wedding," he said. "I feel like someone who escaped a wedding." He handed her the water. She drank. Then she said, "You saved me tonight." Julian leaned against the wall. "No. You did. I stood beside you." He was trying to make me look unstable. He was trying to make you look smaller than you are. Nora looked down. "That sounds worse." "It is." For a moment, only the rain made noise. Then Nora said, "I'm tired." Julian's expression softened. "I know. I'm tired of fixing things. I'm tired of being the person who remembers everything. I'm tired of people acting like I'm difficult when I ask them to do the job they said they would do." Julian said nothing. That made it easier to keep talking. "I'm tired of people telling me I'm strong," she said. "Like that means I'm not allowed to be tired." He stepped closer. "Not too close. Just enough. You are allowed to be tired." Nora laughed once, but there was no humor in it. "I don't know what I am when I'm not holding everything together." Julian looked at her for a long moment. "Someone who deserves to sit down." Her eyes stung. She hated that. She hated crying. But she stepped forward anyway and rested her forehead against his shoulder. Julian stayed still for a second. Then his hand came to the center of her back. Warm. Steady. He did not pull her closer. He only let her stay. Her phone vibrated in her pocket. Nora stepped back and looked at the message. It was from Denise. Elias has offered to join you for the midnight remarks. We need to decide now. Nora stared at the screen. Julian read her face. What happened? She showed him. His jaw tightened slightly. He wants to stand up there with me, she said. He wants everyone to think we are still running the company together. Do you want that? No. Then say no. It's not that simple. Why? Because the board knows him. Some donors know him. If I refuse, I look angry. Julian looked at her carefully. Are you angry? Yes. Then that part is simple. Nora gave him a tired look. You make everything sound easy. No, he said. I make the truth sound clear. Before she could answer, a staff member appeared at the door. Ms. Bell. Mr. Voss is waiting for you in the service corridor. Nora put her heels back on. I'll talk to him, she said. Julian nodded. I know. The service corridor was narrow and cold under fluorescent lights. Stacks of wine crates lined one wall. Flower boxes sat beneath an exit sign. From the main hall, Nora could hear the MC testing the microphone. Elias stood near the loading door. You took your time, he said. I was working. So was I. Nora folded her arms. What do you want? He gave her a disappointed smile. Really? We're going to do this like enemies? You sent an email to our clients announcing you were leaving. I told them you were capable. You implied I was unstable. I said you care too much. That is not a compliment. Elias exhaled. Nora, I'm trying to help you. There it was. The sentence he always used when he wanted control. The board knows me, he said. The donors know me. We go on stage together, we show them the company is stable, and you keep the contract. You left. I stepped back. You left me with everything. I left because I couldn't keep doing this with you. The words hit harder than she expected. With me? You make every disagreement personal. You make people feel like they are failing you if they don't work exactly the way you do. Nora opened her mouth. Then stopped. For years, he had said things like that in softer ways. You're intense. You don't trust anyone. You always need to be right. She had believed him often enough that the words still knew how to hurt. Elias stepped closer. Let's just get through tonight, he said. You can be angry with me later. Nora looked at him. Then she looked down the corridor. Julian stood near the far wall. He had not interrupted. He had not moved toward her. He was just there. Elias noticed him and laughed quietly. Of course, he said. You found someone else to solve things for you. Julian met his eyes. That depends, he said calmly. On whether she asked. Nora felt something inside her shift. Elias looked at her again. You're making a mistake. Maybe, Nora said. But it will be mine. She walked away. Julian waited until she reached him. You okay? He asked. No. He nodded. Good. Nora blinked. Good. You should not be okay with someone talking to you like that. She stared at him. Then, despite everything, she laughed. The laugh faded quickly. I don't know if I can do this, she said. Julian led her into the side gallery, where the lights were low and the crowd had not yet gathered. A single dark painting hung on the wall. Blue, black, and gold. Nora stood in front of it with her arms crossed. Julian faced her. "Tonight, every important decision came from you," he said. "The artists. The schedule. The sponsors. The people downstairs who are having a good night because you built it. That does not mean the board will care. Maybe not at first." She looked at him. "But you care," he continued. "And you know what is true." Nora looked back at the painting. "I'm scared people will think I'm selfish." Julian's voice softened. "There are people who benefit from women confusing self-respect with selfishness." Her eyes lifted to his. "And there are men who call you hard to love because you stop making it easy for them to use you." For a second, she could not speak. Then she asked, "Why are you still here?" Julian gave a small smile. "Because you asked me to come." "I asked you because I was falling apart." "No," he said. "You asked me because you wanted someone beside you." Nora looked at him. "I don't need you to be soft to deserve that," he said. "You don't need to make yourself smaller to be easier for someone else." He held out his hand. "Palm up." "I won't stand in front of you," he said. "You go first. I'll be beside you." Nora looked at his hand. Then she placed hers in it. Just for a second. Long enough to feel the warmth of his palm. Long enough to understand that trusting someone did not have to mean giving up control. She let go. "Okay," she said. Julian tilted his head. "Okay. Okay." She looked toward the main gallery. "If Elias tries to take the microphone, I'll handle it." "Nicely." Julian smiled. "I am deeply offended you think I would do otherwise." At 1:30, the museum fell quiet. The last champagne glasses had been collected. The quartet had stopped playing. The crowd gathered before the small stage at the end of the gallery. Nora stood near the wings. Julian stood a few feet away. Elias moved first. Of course he did. He stepped toward the stage with the easy confidence of a man who expected to be welcomed. "Before Nora and I say a few words," he began, reaching toward the microphone, "I would like to thank." Julian crossed the room. Not quickly. Not dramatically. He went to Denise Harrow and said something low enough that Nora could not hear. Denise looked toward Nora. Then toward the MC. The MC hesitated. Julian turned slightly toward the crowd. "I think everyone here has already met the person responsible for tonight," he said, his voice clear but calm. "She does not need anyone else to explain her work. She deserves to be heard." The room shifted. Every face turned toward Nora. Elias's smile disappeared. For 1 second, Nora felt the old habit pulling at her. Stay quiet. Let him speak. Avoid the fight. Then she remembered Julian's hand in hers. "You go first. I'll be beside you." The MC held out the microphone. Nora took it. She walked onto the stage. The lights were warmer than she expected. The room was larger than she remembered. But Julian was there at the edge of the crowd, watching her with a calm expression. Not rescuing her. Waiting for her to choose herself. "Thank you," Nora began. Her voice was steady. She thanked the artists first. Then the museum staff. Then the donors, the young volunteers, the people who had stayed late, carried tables, solved problems, and made sure the night happened. She did not speak about Elias. She did not need to. "The thing I love about this work," she said, "is that it is never made by one person. It is made by people who show up. People who notice what is missing. People who choose to stay when leaving would be easier." The room stayed silent. Nora looked toward Denise and the board. "Bell and Voss has changed," she said. "But the work has not. My team and I will continue to build the projects we promised. We will continue to make room for new artists, new ideas, and people who deserve to be heard. Then she looked out at the audience. Some partnerships end. That does not erase what was built. But it also does not decide who gets to move forward. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the applause began. It started near the front. Then spread across the gallery. Denise stepped onto the stage beside her. We are pleased, she said into the microphone, to announce that the Mercer Museum will continue its annual partnership with Nora Bell and her team. The applause grew louder. Nora stood under the lights, stunned. Elias remained in the crowd. He looked smaller now. Not because Julian had embarrassed him. Not because Nora had attacked him. Because the room had finally seen who had been carrying it. When Nora stepped down from the stage, Julian was waiting for her. He did not pull her into his arms. He did not act as though he had won something. He only looked at her and asked, "What do you need?" Nora laughed through the tears in her eyes. "Stand closer." Julian stepped toward her. She slipped her hand into his. His fingers closed around hers. For the first time in weeks, Nora did not feel like she was holding everything up alone. 3 weeks later, Rain returned to Manhattan. Julian was sitting in the same hotel bar where he had first met Nora Bell. Martin placed a drink in front of him. "You waiting for someone?" the bartender asked. Julian looked toward the door. "No." Then it opened. Nora walked in wearing a deep blue coat over a simple black dress. Her hair was pinned back neatly. Her phone was in her hand. Her wallet was tucked safely inside her bag. She looked rested. Not completely. But more like herself. She saw Julian and smiled. He stood as she crossed the room. "Trouble finding somewhere to sleep again?" he asked. "No." "Lost your wallet?" "No." "Phone dead?" Nora held up her phone. 100% battery. Prepared woman. Terrifying, isn't it? A little. She stopped in front of him. "I have somewhere to go tonight," she said. Julian raised an eyebrow. "Oh. Yes." She paused. "I just wanted to go with you." For once, Julian had no quick answer. He looked at her. Really looked. "This time," he said, "are you sure?" Nora stepped closer. "This time, I came to get you." Julian smiled. He reached for his coat. Outside, the pavement was wet. Taxis moved through the avenue, their headlights stretching across the rain-dark street. Julian held out his hand. Nora placed hers in his. They walked half a block before she stopped beneath an awning. Julian turned toward her. "What is it?" Nora looked up at him. For weeks, he had given her choices. He had stood beside her without trying to own the moment. He had made room for her when other people wanted to speak over her. So she did not hesitate. She caught the front of his coat gently and kissed him. Julian laughed softly against her mouth. Then his hand came to the back of her neck, and he kissed her again. Slower this time. Warmer. When they pulled apart, Nora rested her forehead against his. "You know," Julian said quietly, "you still don't owe me a story." Nora smiled. "I know." Then she took his hand again. And together, they walked into the rain.